live for Wednesday afternoons. We meet here every week at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, where I share a project with you. As I mentioned last week, that I am going to be featuring a product that is in the annual catalog that may retire. Apparently we should have the retiring list late this month, the 24th I believe the date is, so I will have a much better idea of what's going to carry over and what's going to retire, but we don't know. So I'm kind of doing my own little forensic, and stamp sets that have been around through a couple of catalogs are becoming my highlight, because those are the ones that I think that will quite possibly be going away. So with that said, today's project is using a couple of stamp sets that were featured in a suite that came out in, I would say, the January to May mini catalog 2020. And I just want to share those with you. So just bear with me while I turn this camera down, because we're back to the old technology, because the old one just wasn't working with my bandwidth issues. Oh, and this isn't working very well either. Try and bring you in focus here. Move this up a little bit. Okay, so these are the stamp sets that I'm using today. So the Peaceful Moments is an all greeting stamp set, and it comes with these lovely shaped dies that coordinate with the Painted Poppies stamp set here, that is an all image stamp set, but also has its own set of dies that are mostly labels. I'm not using the dies, or at least these dies today, but I am using images from both stamp sets. So let me get those out of the way. And the card that we're going to make today is this one. So it's kind of a modified Eclipse technique. Now, if you don't know what the Eclipse technique was, it was really, really popular a few years ago when we had the large letter dies and people would stamp or create words and then cut them out and pop them up. So it was really popular, and now it's kind of died off. So this is kind of a modification. It's a bit of a Eclipse technique, as well as it looks like two-step stamping, where I've got layers stamped with mats in between. So this is kind of my own creation, and I just want to show you how I made this. So I will explain the card a little bit before we actually get into making it. So I have started with Rococo Rose, which is an in color that is going to retire this year, this beautiful kind of smoky pink color. And then the layer behind is a DSP from the Hydrangea Hill Designer Series paper. And then we have some black and some white and some stamping and a little bit of petal pink. We also have these beautiful gems that are from the Elegant Faceted Gems that come in petal pink, white, and clear. So let's get into this, shall we? So I have pulled two of the dies out. There is a third die that I've already pre-cut the image. So we actually used the three largest smooth oval dies in this kit, in this project, but I've cut the middle one out already just to save some time. There's our piece of Designer Series paper. This is this on the back, and this beautiful sort of mottled Rococo Rose, a bit of white, bit of petal pink color in there. We have an 8.5 by 5.5 inch Rococo Rose base that's scored at 4 1/4. So let's just fold that in half and get it burnished, and then it'll be ready to go. Just gonna set that off to the side. So, and again, as I said, we have the second largest smooth circle oval already cut out in petal pink. Our Designer Series paper that's going to go on flat. So let's just adhere that, and then we just have fewer pieces hanging around. So that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches if you're keeping track of the measurements. So that just gives us that 1/8 inch frame around the outside. I have a small piece of the same designer series paper that's going to go on the inside of the card. I have a piece of basic black that is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. I have a couple of scraps of white and black that we're going to use for our greeting. I have a 4 by 5 1/4 whisper white for the inside, and I have a 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 white. And this is really where all the work is going to get done. So we'll just have that here and we'll get started. So what I'm doing is I'm using the poppy images from the stamp set and one of the leaf images to create the poppy image that's on the front of this card here. So I'm going to bring in my Memento ink, and I'm going to do one of the large poppy first in the middle. And then I'm going to do a couple of the smaller poppy, and I'm just going to kind of butt them up together as best I can because they're not clear. It's a bit of a guess, and it really doesn't matter if they overlap a little bit. And then I'm going to add some leaf images. So let's put one, and so when you do this, no two are ever going to be the same. They might be similar, but they're never going to be the same. And if it goes over the edge, that's okay. Where else? Let's put one down here. And then another one going up this way. Okay, so that is all the stamping to create the poppies. Now to get the color added, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set that aside for a moment. I want to make sure it's really good and dry before I add my color to it because I don't want it to smear. I've got this 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inch piece of designer series paper that I'm just going to put down the right side of the inside of my card. And then I'm going to stamp my greeting for the inside, which is, these are the moments we'll look back on with joy. Not quite done with that one yet. Set that aside. We also want our greeting that says, always remember. So this is going to go on the front. Let's see how straight I can get this. Ooh, pretty good. Not always that lucky. Let's bring in the envelope, and I want to put one of the poppies. Let's put the, no, let's put, I didn't do anything with the other envelope, so let's put the smaller poppy on here. And a couple of leaves. And maybe this one will just come off like that. Then we're done with the black and I can put it away. Always hate having open ink around. It scares me. Get my fingers in it and make a mess. Okay, so to add the color to this image or series of images that we have created, I am using Petal Pink and Pear Pizzazz, and I'm using the blending brushes. I'm just being careful to just put just a little bit of ink on one part of the blending brush because these aren't huge images. And then I'm just going to slowly bring it down, swirling, and add some color to the poppy image. And then if you want it a little darker, you just add a little more ink to your blending brush and just swirl it around. And then we'll move on to the smaller ones. And you can just start with a gentle touch so you don't get a big blob of color. And it's more like a wash than a solid coloring of the image. There. And then while we've got this here, we might as well do our envelope. Okay, we're done with the petal pink. Now, this was a little tricky, but it worked out better than I thought it would. So I'm going to bring in my Pear Pizzazz, and I'm just on the very edge of my blending brush, put a little bit of green ink, and then I'm just going to stroke it along those leaves. If you go outside the lines a little bit, that's fine, but you don't want to go out a whole lot. And just gentle strokes there. And that looks pretty good. So then let's bring it in and add some color to the leaves on our envelope. Remember, I've just got just that very small part of the brush colored. I'm happy with that. Okay, we'll just set our envelope aside for a moment. Okay, so now we're going to cut this out twice. So let me bring in my mini Stampin' Cut and emboss machine. Let's back it up here. The first thing I'm going to do is with the smaller of the three ovals, I'm going to cut as close as I can guesstimate the center of the image out. Okay, then I'm going to pop that out. Now we still have this piece left. And now we're going to cut another oval. We're going to try and center that around the one we've already cut out as best we can. And run that through. We still need that piece, and we need this ring that we made. So let me get all of this out of the way. And let's bring back some of our pieces. So this piece here is going to get adhered flat onto our 3.5 by 4 3/4. So just put a little bit of adhesive on each of the corners to hold that down. In the center of that black piece. Now this is going to get a little tricky, but we see that that got cut out of here, so we know we want to add this, but we're going to put dimensionals, we'll use the mini ones, on the back of this because we want to pop it up. And I'm using the black in particular because I've got black behind, and they call it an eclipse, so it's kind of shadowed, if you will. Mini dimensionals just fit in there perfectly. I love these tweezers. If you don't have a pair of these, you really should. You can get them at the dollar store. They don't have to be expensive. Okay, so let's pop this backing off. And before we actually secure it down, we want to make sure we've got everything lined up. Okay, so we know that and that, whoop, kind of line up. And so it's popped up. Making sure it's not stuck anywhere. And now let's bring back, we have our pre-cut oval and our center image that we cut out fits right there. So we're going to adhere that to this piece here. Put that right in the middle. Now I'm going to try something different than I did on my original. I glued this just with a single layer, with a single layer dimensionals, which made it flat with this. But I'm actually going to add a double layer dimensionals behind it and pop it up even more on this one. I'm quite curious to see how that will turn out. I'm thinking it'll be even more striking. So we'll put on our first layer. And then we'll put on another layer. So that will pop it up even higher than this little ring is popped up, making it almost like a double eclipse. Being as careful as we can to try and line up our line art. Yes, I like this much better. Okay, then we need to add this to the front of our card, so that's going to get added in there, right there. Look quite straight. Let's see if we can. Now we have our greeting stamped on this little 1/2 inch scrap. Need my scissors. I'm going to just trim that off. And then let's see if I can trim it a little straighter. And then I'm going to flag the end. And I have a scrap of basic black that's 5/8 of an inch wide. And I'm going to put that end right against the end of this black. I'm not going to leave any frame around the one end. And then cut my flag in. Like that. And then we'll just put a couple dimensionals on the back of that. And I'm going to put that right at the edge of the white, and actually I'm going to drop it down and line it up with the black like that. I'm going to add 2 small faceted gems in the petal pink. Let me grab my knife, works better than the tweezers for this. I'll put a couple small ones down here and a bigger one up in the opposite corner. So that's the elegant faceted gems. And then we just have to put our inside in and we're done. So if you have trouble sometimes getting your layers straight, and in the interest of saving adhesive, especially if you're using the Stampin' Seal, it's a very strong adhesive. I'm trying really hard to get away from my habit of gluing the entire outside frame. This way you have less area where your adhesive is down, and if you need to pull it up, it's much easier. And the Stampin' Seal is a little bit forgiving for a few minutes. Where's our envelope? There we go. So compared, so this one's popped, double popped. This is popped and flat. I like this one that I did today better. That's just me. I hope you enjoyed the project I have for you today. If there is anything that I showed you today that you might be interested in purchasing, please, you can get to my online store through my website, parklandstamper.com. Drop me a line. Last week was the first week of my new Parkland Stampers VIP group. We had some fun making a couple of really beautiful projects. On this page is the link to get signed up or request to join. Please, if you can't find that, just shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to send it to you. If you'd like to join my Thursday evenings at 7:30 p.m., I have a VIP group, and in there we have a project or two. It's not public, it's only with the members of the group, and the PDF is prepared and uploaded after the class with all the directions and measurements, and it's just for the members of the group with pictures and everything. So thanks for joining me today. Have an amazing day. We'll see you soon. Bye.